Hi, my name is Jennifer. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to my April wrap up. As of today, we're about a week and a half-ish into April and I have a little pile of books to talk about. So, first book I read in April was Seven Dead by Jefferson Farjeon. This is one of the British Library crime classic books. It was first published in 1939. I had a bit of a run of DNFing at the end of March and wanted to pick up something reliable, something that I was going to have a good time with. So of course I turned to murder and I enjoyed this. I've read a few books by Jefferson Farjeon and I think he is a good writer. In this one, the book opens with a burglar who has broken into this big house and he has like stolen loads of silverware and stuff, and then he finds this locked room and he manages to break into this locked room and inside he finds 7 dead bodies. And then the police get involved and it's a case of trying to work out who these people are because they are not residents of the house. The homeowners are away in France at the time that this has happened. So who these people are, how they've come to be in this locked room and what caused their death. If they were murdered, who murdered them? A lot of the action takes place in France and it is a bit more of an action-y type plot rather than sort of a classic murder mystery, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was pacey, compelling and a very good read. Then we have a DNF. This is another book from the Women's Prize long list and it's Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. This was my first time reading Barbara Kingsolver. I mean, my heart wasn't really in it because I didn't think this was going to be a book for me. I only read about 20 odd pages and I just didn't connect with it at all, and it is a very long book to have to slog your way through if you're not getting on with it. So that was a DNF. Next up I read Acceptance by Jeff VanderMeer, which is the third book in the Southern Reach trilogy. I have heard there's meant to be a fourth book coming out, I think either this year or next year. I don't know if that's true or not. That obviously would not make it a trilogy any longer. But I really enjoyed this. So the first book was Annihilation and that focused on a sort of an expedition into Area X where some terrible sort of disaster has taken place. The second book, Authority, focused on the Southern Reach, sort of like the control base who are sending in the missions to Area X. And then this book, Acceptance, it sort of brings lots of different strands together that we've had in the first 2 books in the series. So I won't say too much about the plot because obviously I don't want to give any spoilers. But I really liked how it brought sort of different elements together. We have 3 or 4 different points of view during this novel. One of them is actually told in second person, which I quite liked. It's quite I think it's quite a complex plot. There's lots going on. There are lots of different characters. I didn't entirely understand everything that was happening and I struggled to keep in mind who the different characters were and how they sort of related to each other. I think most people probably won't have that problem. That is a problem that I do tend to have. But I did enjoy the reading experience, and after finishing the book I then googled the plot and there was, well, one quite big thing in particular that had completely passed me by. But no, it was good. It was quite compelling and I do really like Jeff VanderMeer as an author. I think he is doing something really interesting in the horror genre. If there is going to be a 4th book in the series, I'm definitely going to read it, and I would also like to read more by Jeff VanderMeer. So yes, this was an interesting read. Then I read some non-fiction for a change. This is None of the Above by Travis Alabanza. So this is about Travis, who is a black working class non-binary trans person, and they have taken 7 sort of phrases or sentences that people have said to them or about them. And each chapter in the book sort of looks at a different one of those phrases and what it means and what sits behind that and what it means for Travis's life. I thought this was fascinating. Travis is a really accomplished writer. It was so eloquently written and it was really, really interesting. I just wanted to read a little few sentences out because this was something that I thought was particularly interesting. This is from page 29 of my edition. It says, I believe my transness is a reactionary fact, not an innate one. I am trans because the world made me so, not because I was born different. I am trans because the systems the world operates through force me to be so, not because of genetics. I am trans because of you, not because of me. I did not always know because I once imagined a world where I would not have to know. So I thought it was really interesting how it explores a lot around so much of what we or many people take for granted as being innate, as being how things are and have to be, such as gender, is actually a construct of society and the world around us. And that's something that I think about quite a lot in many different sort of aspects of life, gender being one of them. I would highly recommend this. This is, I think it's on the Jalak Prize long list, I think I'm right in saying. A really, really excellent non-fiction read. And then I do have another DNF. This is Skin by Kerry Andrew. I read about, I think, 40 or 50 pages of this before DNFing. It's about a boy whose father goes missing and possibly presumed dead. It centres around a pond at Hampstead Heath where he was potentially last seen. It's very, very slow paced, and that was the reason I DNF'd it in the end. There's a lot about swimming, which doesn't really interest me, but it was very slow paced. That was the only reason I DNF'd it. So that's all the books I have finished or DNF so far. I do have I actually have 3 more books on the go at the moment, which is unusual for me, but I will update you more once I have finished some more books. Hello again. It is now Friday and I'm very tired. I started my new job this week. I only started on Wednesday, so I've done 3 days so far. And it's going well. I really like it, but the commute is going to take some getting used to. So my last job, I was very fortunate in that I was able to walk to work. And now I have a commute, so I drive. I think probably on a good day it's 40 minutes, which is fine. Some days it's taken longer and it's school holidays, so it's probably going to get worse when the kids are back in school. So we'll see. But anyway, going well so far, but I am very tired. I have not done as much reading as usual. I have not watched as much booktube as usual. I'm going to try and catch up on both those things at the weekend, but realistically, I'll probably spend a lot of the weekend asleep, because that's what I like to do at the best of times, even when I'm not exhausted. So, but I do have a couple of bookish updates. Tomorrow morning I have my book club at the library, and this month we've been reading Us by David Nicholls. I have DNF'd this at, about a third of the way through. However, I have read this book before. So I read it several years ago and I don't really remember that much about it other than I thought it was fine. And the reason I've DNF'd it this time around is it's just a little bit dull. So it's about this middle-aged man who's married, and him and his wife have a son who is about to go off to go away to university. And before he goes away, they are going to have a family holiday, doing a grand tour. So visiting some sort of famous cities across Europe. And before they go on holiday, his wife tells him, his name is Douglas, his wife Connie tells him that she thinks she wants to leave him. And so they're going to have this last holiday with their son, who they've not told anything about this. And then there'll be a decision made at the end of this holiday as to if they're going to stay together or not. Anyway, so it's told from the guy's point of view. We do get some flashbacks, so we get content about when they first met and first got together, etc., etc. And it's fine. It's perfectly well written. It is sort of mildly funny in parts, but I feel like I should be at least halfway through, and I'm still not even halfway through, and it just feels like more of the same. Like there's nothing particularly interesting happening, and it's not a particularly interesting story either, to be honest. So anyway, that's why I've DNF'd it. One of the things I was thinking about as I was reading this, and I don't know if this is a fair thing to say or not, but it is something I was pondering on, so I'll tell you about it. This was longlisted for the Booker Prize in 2014, and I have certainly read worse books that have been long and shortlisted for the Booker Prize, and it's, you know, perfectly passable. I don't think it's doing anything remarkable, but what I was thinking was, if this book had been written by a woman, and if the protagonist were a woman, so, you know, it was about a woman who was considering leaving her husband, whatever, marital difficulties, family story, you know, fine. Would that have been nominated for the Booker Prize, or would that have been shelved as women's contemporary fiction? Something that occurred to me as I was reading it, so I thought I would mention. But anyway, then I picked up something which has been on my shelf for a little while, and I just wanted something that was going to be easy to read, because that's the mood I'm in. So I, of course, turned to a book about a serial killer. This is The Curator by M.W. Craven. So this is a police procedural sort of thriller crime novel, and it was very entertaining and quite a page turner. So I think it's like the third in a series featuring these particular sort of police officers. It does mention some stuff about previous cases, which I assume is from the first couple of books in the series. So if you're a purist, you'll probably want to read them in order. For me, it didn't bother me, because there's no way I will remember any of that by the time I eventually come round to reading anything else in the series, which I probably will do at some point. So the book opens with a suspected serial killer who has chopped off 2 fingers of 3 different victims, and these fingers have been sort of found in bizarre circumstances. So, for example, 2 fingers are found in someone's Secret Santa present at an office party, to give you an example. The chapters in the book are very short. Each chapter sort of ends on a little cliffhanger, so it does keep you reading on into the next chapter. The plot is quite dark in places, and overall quite OTT, quite sort of ridiculous in many ways, but very entertaining at the same time. It's now the end of the month, and I have read 4 more books. I don't feel like I've read very many books in April, what with being busy starting a new job and everything. And I still have hardly watched any BookTube, so I am planning on catching up with BookTube, so apologies if I normally watch and comment on your videos and I haven't. Hopefully that will change. So I actually listened to 2 audiobooks, which is unusual for me because I don't tend to get on with audiobooks. I struggle to follow them. But I listened to 2 audiobooks for the Women's Prize. The first of which was Children of Paradise by Camila Grudova, which I enjoyed. So Children of Paradise is set in the Paradise, which is an old and old-fashioned and quite run-down cinema. Our main character starts working at the cinema, and we follow her and the other personnel working there. It's very descriptive in terms of like the cinema itself, and also lots of like bodily type descriptions. One of the main characters' duties is to clean the toilets, and we do get lots of descriptions about what she finds there, which is pretty grim. The cinema sees itself sees its existence come under threat as to whether it can continue to survive. I enjoyed the book. It didn't make the shortlist, but I'm not surprised it didn't make the shortlist. I don't think it was like doing anything particularly remarkable, but I did enjoy it. And then I listened to the audio of I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel, and that was one of my favourite books of the year so far. So the audiobook is narrated by Sheena Patel, which I thought was really, really good. It's quite I suspect it's a bit of a Marmite book. So we follow our main character, who is obsessed with two people, really. She's obsessed with who she refers to as the man I want to be with, who is married and is having several affairs and is sort of generally not a nice person. And she's also obsessed with who she refers to as the woman I'm obsessed with, who is one of the women that this man is having a relationship with. And so our main character sort of like stalks this woman online. She has a very sort of Instagrammy life. The novel is told in sort of short sections which each have their own title. It draws a lot on like race, politics, gender, class. It's very sort of confronting. It's sort of doesn't hold anything back. It has a very distinct voice. I thought it was brilliant. I really, really liked it. I am still shocked that it didn't make the shortlist. I don't know how that didn't make the shortlist, because I think it's a brilliant book. Yeah, I loved it. I would like to read it again in a physical format, because I think there will have been stuff that I kind of missed with listening to it on audio. But yeah, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And then two final books that I read. I read The Seep by Chana Porter. So this is a strange book, sort of speculative, sci-fi, bit horror-ish. So it's about a 50-year-old woman called Trina, who is trans, and she lives with her wife. And right at the start of the book, this being called the Seep starts to infiltrate the world and humankind, and it is sort of a slow sort of moving thing, and it kind of combines with humans and changes what it means to be human. I'm not describing it very well because it's kind of a strange concept. So the book is quite sort of, it's kind of creeping and slow paced in a way. But this all sort of is apparent right from the start. The first page, which I thought was amusing, is titled Tips for Throwing a Dinner Party at the End of the World. So as we go a bit further into the book, this happens really near the start though. Trina's wife decides that she wants to become a baby again, and somehow the Seep enables her to do this. It's very strange. I really like this. It is blurbed actually by VanderMeer. And I read the Southern Reach trilogy recently, and I do think if you like that, you might like this. It's that sort of strangeness. I enjoyed it, and there is a short story at the end of the book, or at least in this copy, as well, which is set in the same world as the Seep. And then the other book I read is The Truth and Other Lies by Sascha Arango. This is translated from German, I think, by. It's translated by Imogen Taylor. So this is a crime thriller novel, which is compared on the blurbs to something by Patricia Highsmith, and it is very sort of noir-ish. So our main character is this man who is an author. He's quite a successful author. He's married, and he is having an affair with another woman. And the book is really about the secrets that people are keeping, and some stuff happens that I don't want to spoil. And it's really about the sort of the bad decisions that our main character makes in trying to cover up his secrets. It reminded me a bit of the film Suspicion by Alfred Hitchcock, which is itself based on a book, I think, by Francis Eales. It's that sort of story. For me, this one sort of... it lacked a little bit of something holding it together, I think, for me. I did enjoy it, but I can't say it's going to be particularly memorable. So those were all the books I read in April. This is probably quite a short video, I imagine. I'm hoping in May to have time to do some more reading and some more watching of BookTube. So let me know what you have been reading. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Bye.